Hello, my Math 3 scholars. In this video, we're going to learn about compounded interest. So if we're going to learn about that, let's just talk for a minute about what compounded interest is. So compounded interest would be like if you invested some money in a savings account and it would tell you that it would earn, say, 5% interest over 10 years. And it might ask you what is your final amount after those 10 years. So that's what we're looking at. And it might tell you that the interest is compounded annually or compounded semi-annually. And we'll talk about what that means in a minute. So first, if we're going to work these kinds of problems, so these are going to be word problems, but that's okay. We can do these word problems. I'm going to show you how to walk through and mark everything so that you can put it in the right places. So the compounded interest formula is this. A equals P times, in parentheses, 1 plus r over n, and then that is raised to an exponent of n times t. Now, we need to talk about what all these variables represent, okay? So A represents your final amount. So that would be like after 10 years, what would be in the account. P represents the initial amount. So like if you invested $500, your initial amount would be the $500 you initially put into that account. Your R is your rate as a decimal, and I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. So if they told you that you had a 5% interest rate, then we would have to convert that to a decimal. And I just want to remind you that to convert percents to decimals, you take that decimal point that's at the end of that 5 and you move it back 2 places. So that would be 0.05 would be the decimal. You should already know how to do that, but if you don't remember that, that's what you do is you move that decimal point back 2 places. So 5% would be 0.05. Okay, T is your time. Usually they give that to you in years. So it might say over 10 years or over 5 years. And then N is the number of times that it's compounded per year. So that's where it might say like compounded annually. Well, annually, we know that means once. So the N would be 1 in that case. If it said compounded semi-annually, then that would be twice a year, so our N would be 2. If it said compounded quarterly, then there are 4 quarters to a year, so that means that would be the number 4, that it would be compounded 4 times per year. If it said compounded monthly, then that would be 12, so we'd have 12 times per year, something like that. So let's look at some examples. Calculate the total amount of the investment or the total paid in the loan for each of the situations below. Okay, I should say each. I'll fix that. All right. You borrow $59,000 for 2 years at 11%, which is compounded annually. What total will you have to pay back? Okay, so if I think about this and I mark what I'm given up here. So I borrow $59,000. That is my initial amount. So that is my P. Okay, so we're going to mark this as we go. P, that's my initial amount. For 2 years, all right, that's my T. So there's my T. At 11%, okay, that's my R, but remember, we've got to convert that to a decimal. So 11% is going to be 0.11. And then it says it's compounded annually. So this annually right here, that's my N. And since it's annually, my N is going to be 1. Okay, what total will you have to pay back? All right, so now let's look at this formula up here and let's set this up. A is what I'm looking for, okay? P is 59,000. And then I've got an open parentheses. 1 plus, okay, my R rate, I have that written right here, it's 0.11. Over the N, my N is 1. And then that's raised to the N, which is 1, times T, which is 2. Now, I'm going to go ahead and simplify what I can here. I know that 0.11 divided by 1 is just 0.11. So I'm going to simplify that. I also know that 1 times 2 is 2. Now that I've simplified that, I'm going to key it in my calculator, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I've got 59,000, and then you're going to have to do an open parentheses, 1 plus 0.11, close your parentheses, and square it. Okay, we get $72,693.90. So after 2 years, we will have paid $72,693.90 to borrow that money. which, by the way, that's a high interest rate. So if anybody ever wants to do that to you, do not take that as a loan, okay? All right. Your loan for $28,600 at 7.9% is compounded semi-annually. How much will you owe after 2 years? All right. So your loan for, this is my initial amount right here. So that's my P. At 7.9%, this is my R, and we're going to have to convert that. So it's 7.9. So if I move that back 2 places, that's going to be 0.079. That's my rate. Compounded semi-annually, that's my N. And semi-annually means twice a year, so that means my N is 2. How much will you owe after 2 years? So that's my T. Okay, so let's set this up. It's A equals, and I'm referring back to my formula up here, okay? A equals principal, which is $28,600, times 1 plus, okay, R over N. R is 0.079 over my N, which is 2. And it's raised to the N, which is 2, times T, which is 2 power. Now, I can only simplify pretty much this. I'm not going to simplify this 0.079 divided by 2. I'll just punch that in my calculator. But I can simplify 2 times 2 and make that 4. So I'm going to rewrite this. And that's going to be to the 4th power. And then we punch it in our calculator. Okay, so we're going to do 28,600. Now you have to be careful with your parentheses here. So we're going to have to open a parentheses, 1 plus, and then you're going to have to open another parentheses to put this division in. 0.079 divided by 2. Close that division parentheses and then close this big parentheses and then raise it to the 4th power. And you can do these on your Desmos scientific calculator, but you are going to have to use those parentheses like I did to make sure you get it. So this is going to be $33,393.66 since that's an 8. All right. So we get $33,393.66. All right. I would like for you to pause the video and try this one and then come back and I will work it and you can check your answer. Okay, let's check and see how you did. You invest $21,000, that's your principal, at 13.6%, that's your rate, so that's going to be 0.136. Compounded quarterly, there are 4 quarters to a year, so that's your N, it's going to be 4. How much will it be worth after 4 years? That's your T. Okay, so you should have set it up. A equals 21,000 times 1 plus R, which is 0.136, over N, which is 4, raised to the N, 4, times T, 4 power. Now, the only thing I'm going to simplify before I put this in my calculator is this 4 times 4, which is 16. So I'm going to simplify that. Okay, now let's see how you did keying it in your calculator. This is your test here. 21,000, and then open parentheses, 1 plus, another open parentheses, 0.136 divided by 4, close that parentheses, and then close the other parenthesis, and raise it to the 16th power. And you should have gotten $35,854.85. So my answer here is $35,854.85. All right, guys. The key to remember to use this formula, I just want to point it out to you one more time. The key to remember to use this formula is if it says compounded annually, compounded semi-annually, compounded quarterly, compounded monthly, something like that, okay? As always, if you have questions, let me know.